That's Little Richard, of course, and the moment's here. I'm so delighted to be able to welcome David Bowie here onto the Radio 2 show. David, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me, Jonathan. I'm sorry, I'll talk into the microphone.
No, you don't have to. Hey, that's a very smart briefcase you got there.
It is, isn't it? I had another one from the Strand bookshop in New York, which was kind of scruffy, I think, and a bit too boho. My wife got me that.
I'm looking for a bag like that, because the problem is you don't want a bag that looks too much like a lady bag.
You know what, I could sell you this one, because I actually like my old Strand bag.
I'll have that off you.
All right.
I'll swap you something for it.
My wife would kill me.
No, but don't tell her. She won't notice it. But if she's noticing you haven't bought the right bag home, you haven't got a relationship.
You're wearing that old bag again.
David Bowie's here. He's got a new album out. He's performing. He's gigging tonight. You're live tonight. Do you get nervous these days gigging at all?
Well, these pub gigs, yeah. I mean, quite a telling crowd. The old Bricklayers Arms, Old Kent Road. It's not the easiest venue in the world to conquer.
We saw you.
It was easier when it was actually still there, but now they've torn the pub down. I think it's even harder because you just get all the labourers come down and so working on a building site is quite hard. No electricity,
but wasn't
wooden amps.
But the Diamond Dogs tour was largely on scaffolding, wasn't it? I think
very big on scaffolding. Yeah.
That was quite a sparse set.
Yeah.
But it's for us to see you perform is I don't know what it's like for you, but it's a strange thing because you've appeared in so many different ways and you look so different over the years. And now you're out there, you're still doing the same material. You're doing songs which we remember from the past as well as new stuff, and yet you look different. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Let's forget about it.
It's a kind of Madonna thing, isn't it? Really?
Maybe it is, yeah. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I'm going to look like Madonna tonight.
Well, I wonder why you had the pointed bra on. Are you a fan of Madonna? Do you like her?
I think she's fine.
That's very nice. He's coming over all Japanese. He will not say something mean.
These books I've been given.
Yeah.
Uzumaki.
Do you like Japanese comic books?
I can do the mouth.
No, hold it for a second. I thought I was watching Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Tonight, you're going to
Some guy just did The Godfather on Broadway, which is a one-man show. No. He did all the parts, and he was like leaping over the furniture, becoming Pacino, and then he was Brando. Unbelievably athletic version.
Was it actually any good?
An aerobics version of not really. No, the first 10 minutes was like absolutely spellbinding, but after that it kind of went on a bit.
Let me ask you about the way you look right now, David, because you look, I think, fantastic.
The way I look tonight.
Have you had any work done?
No.
I didn't think so.
Well, teeth.
Yeah, the teeth. If
I wanted it, I would have it, but I don't want it, and so I'm not going to have it. No, I never even considered all that.
But you're incredibly youthful looking.
It's the mother's side of the family, frankly, I suppose.
Good genes.
Thank you.
Is that the first time someone's complimented your genes today?
We're going to move off this double smart.
I am so looking forward to the concert tonight because what are you performing at the moment? You've got such a huge back catalogue to choose from.
Yeah, I got kind of a bit radical again, I suppose. I did a show in New York a couple of weeks ago just to see what it sounded like and how it worked, and it was really... I liked it anyway. I'm doing the whole of Low, and then we do the whole of Heathen.
Right.
And that's it.
That's fantastic. But it must be what
I only dribbled out. They didn't leave in droves. It was quite...
I'm sure no one left.
Actually, no, they didn't. It was great. Really wonderful. It was exciting because the two albums kind of feel like cousins to each other. They've got a certain sonic, similarity. At least the weight of it, they're kind of equal. And I'm really excited about that. No doubt, I'll come back on afterwards and do a few kind of... I thought maybe some old Donovan songs might be good. Mellow Yellow.
Do you like that sort of period of pop, though? You were a huge Dylan fan, weren't you, as well?
Love Dylan. Yeah, Dylan Thomas. I also liked... Who did I like a lot? You know what? I really love the Kinks. I thought the Kinks were just wonderful.
I've got a Kinks track I was going to play tonight.
Ray's a brilliant songwriter.
Yeah, and he's still going strong. He's still performing and doing some great stuff. There's a Kinks track, Big Sky. Do you know that?
I worked with him only this year.
It's a fantastic song.
I worked with him only this year. There was a benefit for the Tibet House in New York, and he just turned up out of the blue and came on and did a couple of old Kinks numbers. It was fantastic.
I imagine you must have worked with just about everyone you've wanted to, haven't you, who was still alive and still available?
Not really. I would have liked to have worked somehow or other. I don't know how it would have worked. Maybe written for him or something. Little Richard, it would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't think he's too well at the moment. I mean, he had that car accident, didn't he, a couple of years ago?
You must have met him, though, have you?
Yeah, I've met him. I met him once in the early 90s, believe it or not. That long it took to actually meet him. And I was flabbergasted that he's got the same eye problem as I have.
That's remarkable.
I never knew that, and he was my ultimate hero. And he turned around and looked at me and thought, both our left eyes, same eye as well, had enlarged pupils. And absolutely extraordinary.
I know you've told this story, but I've heard different rumours or different stories as to how that eye is out. One, I heard it was genetic. Then I heard there was a playground fight. And the third thing I heard was that the drummer of Paper Lace got angry with you for having a similar haircut, and he took a swing at you. And I don't know which one's true.
Yeah, that last one is...
Do you remember Paper Lace?
Absolutely out of the... Yes. Unfortunately. It was, in fact, B. The middle.
So it was a boy in the playground. It was a...
Yeah, I kind of started going out with his girlfriend, and like a very stupid thing to do, and something as dumb as that.
Yeah.
And so he whacked me one in the playground, quite rightly, I think.
Wow. I've always been interested in, and I haven't read that much about you growing up in, I guess it was post-war London. It was still...
I suppose it was post-war, really, when you think about it.
But I know
it was after the war, definitely.
Well,
so
you know what I mean? I mean, it still had that feeling. You could still feel the war was that close, I guess. It still looked... The effects of the war were still apparent.
My dad used to take me up to Stepney on Saturdays. He'd go into work and do a bit of extra work. He worked at Dr. Bernardo's Homes, and that was up in Stepney, right? And I remember walking along the streets there with him. I must have been about 7 or something like that. And it was just a wasteland. It was an absolute wasteland. It was just rubble, from the bombings. It was quite extraordinary. I remember it kind of scared me because that was the first time I'd seen London. And I thought of London as just this kind of, bomb site for years. Till I was like 9.
And did that shape your working with? Because I get the feeling, I've been studying a lot of Japanese work recently, films, movies and music, and I get the feeling that a lot of what's coloured there, especially the kind of speculative fiction, is the fact that they went through Hiroshima, they went through, they've seen firsthand the effects of the atomic bomb, and that's very much coloured their fiction and their kind of approach to art, I think, in some way as well. And I wonder whether you, having been that close to the war and seen some of the effects of it...
No, I don't think so. I think my imagination was sparked, or rather kind of revolted against the idea of how colourless everybody and everything seemed to be in the places where I grew up. It just seemed so claustrophobic and without any input or ideas, or if ideas were let in, they were kind of, all the legs and arms were cut off and you just got torsos of ideas. Bloody dripping torsos hung on hooks.
Well, see, but there you make that.
They brought a new idea in.
That sounds exciting, though, with the blood dripping off. I'm assuming you're saying they were.
For some, Jonathan.
Okay, I shouldn't give that away. Let's play a track. We're going to play a track off Heathen. This is it's a fabulous album. It's out right now. David's going to be performing it all. If you're lucky enough to have a ticket tonight to go down to the South Bank and see him live, and then you're doing Manchester, I believe. And are you doing?
I'm doing Manchester. Well, tomorrow actually, I pop off to Paris. We're doing the Olympia.
Right.
And then we start doing some pretty huge festivals in the rest of Europe, and eventually we get back here for the Manchester show, which I'm really looking forward to, because Suede, old-timers, Suede are on that one.
Isn't it weird that they are kind of old-timers now?
So odd, isn't it? I know, they were just the new kids on the block.
I remember, and you on the cover of The NME with Brett Anderson.
Yes, it was passing on the baton.
It really was, though, wasn't it?
Fit.
Well, fortunately, I think you still have a pretty firm grasp of the baton.
Well,
let's not go there.
Your line. David.
David Baddiel suddenly perked up then. Mentioned baton. This is from Heathen. It's Everyone Says Hi. I defy you not to sing along. Do you mind people singing along to your stuff when you're sitting in the room with them?
It's rather off-putting, Jonathan. So what have you been doing with yourself since I last saw you?
What have I been doing?
Last night.
I went to the Edit on Friday morning, looked at the show that we've done together.
I'm not too pathetic, am I?
You're fantastic. I look a little bit like a sort of an excited schoolboy, which I haven't looked that well.
Well, it's good that I come off well then.
You come off very, very well indeed.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, and also at the end of the show, we should point this out, and hopefully you'll tune in next Friday night on the BBC One at 10:30. At the end of the show, David was going to perform Fame. And you started performing Fame.
Are you leaving all that in?
Well, I think we will leave that bit in because it was so great. Because then he stopped and he said, no, let's not do this. And he said, let's do Ziggy. And the audience got very excited. And then I thought, oh, it's a mean joke. He's toying with us because he can. Like an overfed cat with a skinny mouse.
With big bollocks.
But then you went, well, we didn't get that far.
I'm just helping you out.
I'll check the edit and see if we can put those back in for you. And so what went through your mind at phase? Why did you stop doing Fame?
It just felt, Fame is I mean, it was my first sort of major American hit, and suddenly it just felt wrong doing it in England at that particular time after a lot of the stuff that we talked about on the show. It just felt out of context somehow.
Yeah.
And it's a nice high-powered piece of music and all that, but it was the wrong time and the wrong show for it. And I thought the most obvious piece to do right there would be you know.
And it was fantastic.
Something we'd sort of led up to all this, I suppose, you know, Ziggy.
It must be, I would have thought, quite strange for you choosing the records you want to play, the music you want to play again, because
it's really hard. I mean, it gets harder and harder, especially with the internet, you know, because you can all the time. A lot of the users are kind of sending in their own ideas of what you should be. So you're besieged with all these lists of songs you should be doing, and it's really you just have to ignore everybody actually. And I just go and say, well, what do I want to do to satisfy myself as a performer? And not lose my audience entirely, you know. So you kind of make a compromise between giving people what you believe that they want to hear, which is it's very. I think it's very unwise to try and second guess the audience anyway. You know?
There are certain songs that you haven't played for years, if ever live. I'm thinking of songs which we fans of yours adore, and I love. Bewley Brothers being one of them.
You know, and I feel really bad about that because every time I go out, I intend putting that on the list. And I never get round to doing it, and I'm stupid. That I really love that song. I really should do it.
I know. Well, I think there's
I think I'll make a promise now.
Oh, David, that would be great.
No, then I'll try for the next tour to do it.
We all love Bewley Brothers.
There's a fabulous segue here. There's a band that I just heard.
Oh yeah, okay. Which one? Is this Destroyer?
Canadian band, yeah, called Destroyer, and they're really starting to get radio in New York, and I really like them. And the first track. I wouldn't say it's a million miles away from that period of recordings.
Okay, well,
see what you think of it.
David brought this in for us. It's from his own collection.
This is called Street Hawk by Destroyer.
Hey girl, come on and take a whirl in my machine. Though I'm telling you now, it leaves scars on the one turn. Behind these bars is a house built for hunting now. Go! Or don't go, just don't say no, 'cause the listeners of the world are on her side. The listeners of the world are on her side. She said the city was dead, and gutless a cry for the city. You gotta move to stay alive. You do the very modern jive. Once I knew what that wisdom was for. September girls think those pearls just wash upon the shore. Now go, or don't go, just don't say no. With the listeners of the world all on her side. The listeners of the world all on her side. She said the city was dead, and gutless a cry for the city. She said the city was dead, and gutless a cry for the city. She said the city was dead, and gutless a cry for the city. Tempts the huntress, let the girls go insane as we lay down our weapons, and sure enough, we are slain by that stuff.
I like that.
I thought it was very Bewley Brothers.
Yeah, very Bewley Brothers.
Interesting Canadian band, so I'm led to believe. There's quite a scene happening in New York at the moment of new bands.
Let me give you that back there. How do you keep up with the new music? Once again, I imagine the internet
I listen to
helps.
your show. What I try and do is get up early in the morning and
do you really
tune
listen
into your show, and I get to hear what's really happening.
I feel now the pressure's on. Now we'll have to
tell you,
find
it's
some
that
new
extraordinary that in New York I can get BBC 1 through 5. It's just incredible. So it's.
And like the rest of us, you haven't bothered with 6 Music Live yet, either. The new BBC channel.
Is that the digital
yeah,
thingy?
It's the digital.
No, I haven't bothered with that.
Give it a try. You'll double their listeners if you tune in.
I was looking for a cover for this, but of course I didn't bring it.
Did you not bring it? You can't.
I don't even know the names of most tracks of all the songs that I love because I just immediately take them out of their
Have you not got a digital music player, though? Have you? I would have thought you'd have an iPod or something, yeah.
There's, somebody just gave me an update. Who was that somebody? Oh, yes, they were called Sony.
I wonder why they gave
Sony
you that.
gave me an updated, the new thing. I haven't even looked, I haven't opened it up yet. I've not had time.
This is a Sony, you're with Sony sort of now,
It was Columbia.
Right, so.
Yeah. They're autonomous, you know, they make their own rules and do their own thing. I tell you, one of the first thing that they did that I thought was really cool and that I thought we're going to get on okay is that I said, look, I really object to the idea of having CD protection put on my CD, because they were doing it with all their CDs, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, can we just not do that?
This
and
is so people can strip them and burn them into their own computer and exchange tracks
so
and so on.
you know, they've started as a general practice doing it. All the major companies are trying to do that now. And they said, fine, okay. That was...
Yeah. You see, if they're listening to you, they're listening to you. When was the time you were the most unhappy with the label? I mean, what was the time, looking back, when you had the most problems or the most difficulties?
Well, I think probably the time that was really very hard for me to understand exactly what I got myself into was when I first delivered Low to RCA. At that particular time, I got from their head office in New York, they sent me a telegram. And they said, look, we can't sell this. They didn't use the word rubbish, but they said, we can't sell this kind of stuff. We'll give you the money, go back to Philadelphia and do another Young Americans. And I was absolutely devastated, because I thought that Low was probably one of the best things I'd ever done in my life. And they just couldn't see it at all. It was really hard period.
Did you ever feel self-doubt, though? Because presumably, whenever you finished, I would have thought most albums, you must think, this is great. Yeah. And we have to play catch-up. We have to listen to what you're doing, and then we have to decide, and we have to learn to love it, because it's new to us. But have there been times when, you know, you've been aware that maybe it wasn't?
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's a couple of times, specifically in the... always keep going back to this period, the late 80s, where a couple of albums there, which I knew, as I was making them, weren't good, because I was hardly in attendance as they were being made. I would hand it over to somebody else. I was going through a really bad period and really wondering about my own worth as a performer and writer, and I'd really lost the map. And I think that's really quite devastating when you're a writer, when you really think, that's it, I've dried up, I can't do anything, I'm useless, I'm impotent.
That must be horrible.
I shall go and live in a cave. No, I won't. I'll try and make another record first.
Is it different now with the technology available, the fact that you can now mix and virtually produce an album at home if you want? I mean, you could do it using your computers as opposed to...
I don't have that kind of knowledge. I mean, Moby, who I know very well, he literally does that. He has his studio in his bedroom. I mean, he's just got a bedroom and a studio, that's it. He lives like a Spartan. It's unbelievable.
Which I think you admire that in people, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think the ability to live without anything is really commendable.
So you're not interested in coming to see my collection of tiny Japanese robots after the show?
I didn't say that.
It's one of the finest in the country, David.
I believe it.
It is.
I do believe
I've got more Mikuru men than anyone else I can think of. You know what?
More Mikuru men than anyone else.
Well, I thought we were going to avoid that subject today. You know, one of the things I think that all Bowie fans look forward to when you bring in a new album out, not just fans, you know, people who are just casually acquainted with your work, the artwork, the way you present yourself, and indeed the way you present your work and the way it looks. And the artwork on Heathen, which I was really looking forward to because I had the album in advance, I really love the look of it. I mean, the photography is fabulous, but all this kind of artwork and the blanked out lines inside, well, what's the thinking behind that? Who are the people you worked with?
The front cover was very much just my thing. The idea was to kind of... I tried to put in all kinds of subtext to it. I mean, the actual imagery is a nick from Man Ray and Brunel, and you know, there's the old Dali eyes in Shan Andalou and all that. But the design and typography and the idea of the iconoclastic pieces in it, like the ripping of paintings and destruction of religious things and all that. Also comes from a guy called Jonathan Barnbrook, who's a fantastic designer, British designer. He did the Damien Hirst books and does all the Saatchi books.
I know you collect ideas, art. Are you familiar with the work of Joel Pater Witkins, the photographer?
Very much so. I know his work very well.
I can imagine that would be the sort of thing that would appeal to you. It's very strange.
I think it did maybe 10 years ago. But it's kind of messy, and it's quite baroque in the way it's all set up. I'm tending to go for a much simpler form again now. I mean, like much cleaner lines.
I remember reading Buñuel's autobiography years ago.
Yeah.
and I'm just saying that to impress you.
What, that you read or that you read his book?
I read his book, and I remember reading about his description. It's one of the few things occasionally, because I don't drink anymore. I haven't done
There's an American comedian. He starts off his thing with, "My work is for people who read or know someone that does," which I love.
So
Sorry, carry on, John.
But I wonder whether you miss drinking, because there's a description in that book about martinis in which Buñuel describes making the perfect martini, and he says the amount of vermouth you should put into the gin is this. You don't actually pour it in. You put the gin bottle or the glass with the gin behind the vermouth bottle and let the sunlight shine through it into the gin, and that's how much vermouth you actually need. And that often tempts me to start drinking again. Yeah. But do you miss drinking? Do you miss drugs? Do you miss those kind of highs?
Not in the slightest, no. Because I think it's probably because I've just trained myself to only remember the bad times. So whenever, it's almost Pavlovian now, whenever I think of a drug or a drink, I think, a ghastly experience.
Yeah.
I don't think of, I don't associate them with good times. I know that I did have good times. I like to believe that some of them were without drugs and booze, you know.
Yeah.
And it's quite probable there were good times. I mean, all my time in Berlin and knocking around with Eno and all that and Visconti, we had a great time, and I certainly wasn't doing drugs at that period.
That must have been a remarkable amount of time, because you were there with Iggy as well, of course.
Yeah.
And I've read stories about that. I don't know how much is true, but there's a story about you and Iggy driving off one day and getting lost somewhere, and then pitching up in a small Bavarian shack of some sort where they were selling beer and wine, and Iggy getting up and performing some Frank Sinatra songs and getting booed off stage. Any truth in that?
That sounds like a number of anecdotes crammed together.
What a great...
I know that he did jump up on Clive Davis's desk when he went over to be signed by whatever company Clive was running in those days, and sang "Set 'em Up, Joe," and did the whole Sinatra routine.
Iggy's quite a man. You're not really in touch with Iggy anymore?
I do. I found him only a couple of months ago. Right. Actually, we were talking about him doing the Meltdown, but he'd already arranged to do his kind of rock gig.
He's playing over here in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about drugs briefly. You have a new daughter.
No, you were
in your
talking
life.
about drugs.
Well, you were bouncing it back. When you've been through
Do you
that,
want another
you've
line, or
experienced-
should I get rid of that?
No, thanks. How do you... what do you think about your child growing up in a world where the drugs are not only prevalent, they're kind of almost impossible to avoid, and who knows what kind of designer substances will be available in 20 years' time?
I mean, I don't like it. What can I say? I mean, I can only, the only thing that, of course, though, that as soon as it's feasible, and when I believe that she has the maturity to deal with the conversation, it's one of the first things that one would talk about. You know, you have to. But you can only talk about your own experience. There's no point in wagging a finger. The only thing to say is, look, this is what I did. I did this and this and this, and it was like taking a rocket ship up, and I had a really great ride, but it could have blown up at any time, and I might have died with it as well. That's the only thing you can say, you know. Yeah. But constantly talk about it. Yeah. You know,
it's almost
because
inevitable
they're going to be talking about it at school all the time,
and they will probably try some of the substances.
It's inevitable, of course they will. I mean, yes, you know,
scary.
We follow our failings religiously, and we repeat our own mistakes endlessly, and we always will. We're not evolving. Anybody has any impression that we're making progress or evolving, I think that they're living in some kind of fantasy.
I'm thinking of sending my kids to a monastery when they're 15.
Kind of creature. Monastery?
Yeah, send Zandra over.
That's
we'll
not really a great idea.
We'll
these
lock them all
days.
up till they're 50. Oh no, it's probably the worst place to put them.
I think it's not such a good idea.
Let's play another track. What do we have lined up, or what are we going to play?
We were talking about Pet Sounds while the other record was on, so we've dug out Pet Sounds and we've got Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder.
The great Brian Wilson. Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really was. I was a child when that first came out. You were a little bit older. Do you remember when Pet Sounds came out?
I was about 30.
And did you get a copy? No, you can't have been.
Oh, no, you're right.
It was about 67. You were about
18.
20 or something like that. 18,
20?
Yeah. I don't know. Right. Yeah, you were 20.
What year did it come out?
I think it was it 67?
No, 65.
65.
It was earlier than 67.
Let's have a look. We're going through the book now.
Hang on, you keep going.
But was it one of those moments? I mean, was it an album that you knew was different, and did it affect you?
Oh, just it uplifted me and broke my heart at the same time. I mean, it really sort of put a whole real hard dark line around the idea of love. You know, I mean, it was the most romantic album I think I'd ever heard at the time.
And do you listen to music from that period?
Lonely, so lonely, and that train on it. You know, it also felt incredibly American. It summed up everything, the good stuff I wanted to see about America. All the Jack Kerouac kind of stuff as well was in there.
66.
66 was it?
Yeah.
Do you still enjoy the idea of
That was
American
the year.
outsider stuff?
Yeah. That's. It was about that time that I met Hermione Farthingale,
Here we are.
whose real name was Hermione Dennis, actually, and I think she came from. What's that place? What's that place that Mark wrote about? Something on waters. Saffron.
Mark Bolan we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. What did he write about?
Some
Can I be honest? I was
town,
never a huge Bolan fan, particularly.
Well.
Never really got into it.
Henley was saying, someone's saying...
Henley.
No, Henley will do.
She came from somewhere quite nice. She was very middle class when she had quite a well-off family.
Absolutely, yeah, and all that. And I fell hook, line and sinker for her. And I think that album became the soundtrack to her.
So what happened with that relationship? How did that end?
She ran off with another dancer, bloke.
It's almost impossible to imagine
She
you
met on
being...
doing a
David-
movie called Song of Norway.
But it's
I
almost
was
impossible
so
to imagine
pleased
you
it
being
really
chapped.
bombed.
Did she say, David, it's not
Do you know,
working out?
there was a guy on one of my tours. This is the strangest thing, a year or two ago, and he was wearing the T-shirt. Song of Norway. He had no idea. It was an American guy. I said, "Where did you get that T-shirt?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Do you know what that is?" He said, "No." I said, "Can I buy it off you?" He said, "No, you gotta have it." You know, and he gave me the T-shirt.
And when do you wear it?
I don't. I've lost it now.
You wanted to destroy all evidence.
That's probably right.
Did you? And that must. I imagine that she was the big love of your life at that.
At that time, yeah. I mean, you know, you're 19 years old. Anyone, the first girl that you kind of end up in bed with, I think, is like the one that, oh, this is true love.
And how long did it take you to get over that?
It actually took me quite a long time. It wasn't an easy one to get over. A couple of years.
The period with Angie is a period which has been written about a lot.
We're not talking about that.
Are we not?
No.
I only wanted to ask about when you used to
Why
go...
on earth would I want to, talk about one of the worst periods of my life? What possible interest would I find in that?
David Baddiel made me ask you. I didn't want to ask you.
I wanted to hear about Song of Norway.
No, I don't want to ask about Angie. Well, who mentioned Angie?
I don't know what kind of show Song of Norway was.
I don't even know anyone called Angie.
I tell you what it was. It was Pierre Gintsweet and all that. It was him.
That was him.
Yeah.
Well, he's responsible. And Grieg.
Yeah, Grieg. It was the Grieg life story, a biopic.
We don't play a lot of Grieg on Radio 2. I was only curious because going out to clubs at that period, the way you looked was so extraordinary. I mean, the way you looked, I don't know about her, but, the hair, the makeup, the clothes, everything struck me as being kind of otherworldly. I remember the first time I saw you on Top of the Pops was you were doing Gene Genie, and I was scared that you and Mick Ronson were going to come and take me away. Now, I don't know if that was
I'm
a desired
sorry,
effect.
I didn't hear you. What
All right, he's
are
not
you
going to be... He
talking
doesn't
about?
want to talk about
Waffling
Angie.
on about the early 70s.
Because it's
Come on,
Have you seen
Jonathan.
Velvet Goldmine, David?
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
I thought the sex scenes were good, but I thought the rest of it was utter garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was
You know?
rubbish.
I
He
think it's
understands
interesting.
gay stuff.
Exactly. I just thought
But
it's
the
a
rest
gay
of it
film.
was like
It's a
this,
gay
the
film.
narrative was not there, and it was there was no character development, and it got lost about halfway through. I couldn't. I thought, where are we now? I'm lost with this journalist and all that.
Yeah,
you
it's a
know?
real opportunity missed. I think.
Yeah, pretty. There's a lot of it was pretty looking.
But you were asked to be involved in that early on, weren't you?
They wanted to use my tracks in the thing.
Velvet
yeah.
Goldmine itself, of course, yeah. And you didn't want... You decided not to get involved.
Well, at that time, I was seriously considering doing Ziggy Stardust as a project myself. It was weird, because I started working on it with a couple of writers, and there was a point where they said, "Why do you want to do this?" And I said, "Well, because I've always said I was going to, and I really think it's time for me to, come to grips." They said, "But don't you think, by writing it up as a complete piece, however good it is, it's going to tie up all the loose ends of how people really imagine Ziggy was and his world, and they've got such... People have their own real idea of who he was and all that. And aren't you kind of, making him smaller by doing that?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, you're right, it is."
Do you think-
It became an abandoned project.
Is it a 20th and 21st century phenomenon that you have fans for music or any creative output who pore over past work almost obsessively? I was thinking, you mentioned...
I'm looking at one.
Well, you mentioned Griegel. Yeah, I'm a fan, but because we have access to it all. We
Yeah.
have CDs, we have videos, we have that, and we can look at it again
Well, I
and
think
again.
some people do that, but I think it isn't the norm. I think most people, the information and the pure amount of information that they have to deal with is so enormous that they take less and less in than they ever took before. I mean, it seems to me that kids in, say, the States have no history of music, the thing that they listen to. They don't seem to be that particularly interested in going back and finding out where I remember I would go spend hours in record shops poring over old Big Bill Broonzy records and trying to find out where rock came from, and then going back through that and going back to New Orleans jazz and Kid Ory and all those Jelly Roll Morton, and you know, I'd kind of developed trying to find a pattern in all that, you know. That doesn't exist anymore. The having a historical context to just about anything is gone. There's too much information. People aren't willing to take it on board, and I think we're just de-evolving because of that. I think we're getting stupider and stupider.
That's not good news.
No.
That wasn't what I hoped to hear at all.
Well, that's just me and my particular friends anyway. We're getting stupider and stupider.
You sound quite crotchety there.
I think that...
you know, kids today. It was one of
Kids
those
today.
things.
Yeah.
What do you do to unwind? What do you do to relax? I mean, you've got your wife and child, obviously. I'm sure that's a good stress buster for you. But do you ever go bowling? Because you don't drink, we've established that. Do you bowl?
I go
do you
boxing.
play any sport? You spar?
I run down the Madison Square Gardens, and if whoever's finished the fight, I take them on. I say, you know, me next.
I'd like to, you'd probably be able to do Lennox Lewis, I would have thought, these days. He seems to be,
take him on.
He finished.
No problem.
But you don't do any
Didn't
kind
he
of...
do good?
Yeah,
I was so pleased about that.
Do you feel British in that respect? Do you feel proud when English sports people, British sports people, or...
Oh, but of course, yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. It's terrific. Really good.
And what about tennis? Are you a fan of tennis?
I'm looking at Henman at the moment, and thinking he might do quite well.
That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be good?
And we could invite him along to the gig.
And who's the other kiddie? Yesterday, I saw the match was great against Roddick. Rosetsky. Wasn't that great? Wow.
See, I'm delighted to
That
think
was
of you
really
sitting watching
fantastic.
tennis. This has cheered me up as well.
Oh, but it was only accidental. It was just I only started watching, continued watching, because the match was so good.
Yeah,
and he was killing him. He was really, the kid had
I
his
didn't see
baseball
that.
cap, the other guy had his baseball cap.
I was at
on
the bloody edit
backwards.
staring at you for 2 hours. I didn't have a chance. Nice to know you had some downtime this week. Let's have some more music. What are we going to play, Andy?
We're playing another track by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. We played Bang at the beginning of the show, and this is a track called Art Star.
Fantastic. So we're here with David Bowie. Listen to Radio 288 and 91 FM, of course. David's new album, Heathen, is out right now. We'll probably play one final track at the end of the show. He's performing here tonight. Try and catch him in Manchester if you can't tonight. I'm sure he'll be back in the near future, if not. I mean, how often do you like to perform in a given year? How much time do you like to spend on stage?
I kind of, prioritise it by what I'm doing, my kind of domestic life, what the family's doing.
Yeah.
And I'm really working that way these days.
It's the sensible way to be.
Yeah, I have to, because my family do come first.
Are you more aware now of the limited time you have left on the planet? I mean, in the way that as one grows older, I guess you do become. But is that?
Somebody sent me a diary with a date in that, so I, quite.
But I mean, in terms of the amount of time you have to do the things you want to do, insofar as.
That's why you prioritise exactly, and think, well, what is it I really, really want more than anything else? And it's kind of keeping my family together, being with my friends, and that sort of thing.
You seem very relaxed these days, which is a nice thing. When you were setting up, when you were rehearsing at the studio the other day for the BBC One thing we've done together, I noticed that you didn't seem tense. The band were making changes, and at one stage I heard you say, "No, we need a sound there, something jangly. We'll try the guitar." And I thought that's such a relaxed way to be about such an important performance. And is that just experience, or is that you wishing to allow people to have their input into what is that allows you to have give them that much freedom?
I think. Unless something's really life-threatening, it shouldn't really bother you too much. Nothing's that important.
That's nice. I like to hear that. You could learn from that, Andy.
What are you looking at me for?
Well, next time you're pressing the button wrong and you get...
I'll tell you what is important. New music. And there's this band. You'll only want to hear 30 seconds.
And who is this?
They're called Lightning Bolt. They're from New York.
So a New York band.
It's just a guitar player and a drummer. I think they're terrific.
So are you a regular fixture on the New York kind of experimental music scene? Do you pop up watching bands?
No, but I keep my hand in.
Let's have a listen to that.
The drummer will be in a minute.
You know what? This is lovely.
Yeah.
I wish I'd heard this years ago. This could have been
tell
my
you what.
wife's special tune. Me and her. We
You,
did
you
play
only
our
have
tune.
to hear this once. You can't get that tune out of your mind. I guarantee you'll be whistling that in the
It's
bathroom.
catchy.
Here's the drummer.
Here we go. Fabulous, isn't it?
You know what? I'm glad we played it first because Ken Booster won. This is his record of the week.
There you
David,
go. Lightning bolt. Lightning bolt. Get one now.
David Bowie has to leave any second now. He's off to rehearse for the show this evening. It's going to be on the South Bank Festival Hall. So you're going to be doing all of Low. When you say all of Low, you mean all the tracks on what were the B-side when it came out on vinyl as well?
Yeah, with all the instrumentals and
Art
all that.
Decade and Weeping Wall and
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
Wow!
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, it's fun.
And how
I
do you
even
get
play
that-
harmonica on New Career in a New Town.
And that muffled drum beat sound, that kind of overdubbed drum beat that was such a distinctive quality of the album, how do you recreate that live?
I put a scarf around the drummer's mouth.
That'll do it. David Bowie's about to leave. David Baddiel, do you have a final question for David?
Yeah, when you were going to do the film of Ziggy Stardust,
Yeah.
who was going to play Ziggy?
I was thinking
I'll
of...
do it if you want.
Yeah, no. Okay. Well, I mean, these. Yeah, I can say that quite safely now, as there's no
Yeah, there's no
absolutely
way,
no
David.
chance it's going to be made.
You know what? I would like to see that.
Damn good idea, David. You've got the role.
You've still got the costumes. I'm happy to put them on. Try them on.
You know what? I don't know. You'd have to shave the beard off before you put that makeup on, though, David.
No, Ziggy with the beard. I think that's how he was going to end. He was could become a recluse and try and stand up comedy.
And sometimes when you see David live, it is like a recluse up there. There's definitely a hermit quality about you.
Yeah.
David, it's genuinely been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, I've enjoyed both our experiences
thank you
together.
very much.
Jonathan.
I'm really
It's been
pleased.
It's been great.
I'm looking forward tremendously tonight. I'm sure all your fans are and all the people who
We're having a bit of a
fans.
disco afterwards, right?
Yeah, I've got some music selected.
So, show
for
me.
you.
Let me quickly see that.
There's some of the stuff I put together for you. See what you think
Oh,
of
it's
that.
going to be good.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Crawford.
Uncontrollable urge.
What do you think? Crawford, Public Enemy, Jean-Michel Jarre. Thanks for that.
This is great. Yeah.
War, Lowrider.
Wow.
And a friend of mine, Adam Buxton from Adam and Joe, he helped me put these together. So
And
he's-
Jonathan
he's-
Richman.
Oh, do you like
Love-
Jonathan Richman?
love him.
Fantastic. David,
Modern lovers.
we could talk all day. I'm sure we'd enjoy that more than you. You have to get off. Thank you for coming in. This is, we're going to play another track from...
From Low.
Oh,
You
we're
want
play a track from... Oh, yeah, OK, let's play from Low to get you in the mood for tonight. This is from Low, track 9, Art Decade. David, thank you.
Thanks.
It's all right, it's gone now. We can take it off.
Oh, blimey. Fantastic.
I love that album, but can you believe we just inflicted that on the radio to audience?
Well, you did a New Career in a New Town last week, didn't you?
That's more sort of...
Is that all upbeat?
Yeah, I love that, but you've got to be in the mood for it. So David Bowie's going to be performing live tonight. I hope you've enjoyed listening to him here on the show. Obviously, it's a huge high point for me. And for you, I think, David.
I was very, very excited.
And you, Andy?
It was great,
Yes,
yeah.
indeed.
He was great, wasn't he?
I
It's
told
great.
you not to mention Angie. I'm so
Yeah,
angry
I'm sorry
you made
about
me
that.
ask that question. Now.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Furious.
Yeah.
But he was...
You've got her on next week, haven't you?
No, we've got Mick
Give her
Rock
side
on.
of the story.
I don't think we want to hear that. We've got Mick Rock on next week, which is great, because he took the classic pictures around the Ziggy period and the Aladdin Sane
Right.
period, as well as many other people. David, you're going to be coming to the gig tonight as well?
I am. You're going to be DJing.
I am.
You are, yeah.
My
Are
sins.
you going to be shouting at the audience to big up and...
I'm going to get them to
Right.
wave their arms in the right
Yeah.
time and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
be giving out bananas at one stage.
Really?
Inflatable bananas. I'm going to try and get a kind of holiday camp feel.
Yeah,
But I'm
pontins.
not sure. You can help me here.
Yeah.
Should I start with Y Viva España, or should we go with the more traditional lambada?
I think anything by Black Lace you should start with.
I might start with Agadoo.
Yeah, start with Agadoo.
Listen, I'm going to be on at 6:30. No one's going to be there. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter what I start with,
Yeah.
does it?
The Dandy Warhols will join in if you do Agadoo, I
They
reckon.
sound like they're wild men.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
David Bowie, did he meet your expectations?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Friendly?
Well, I was a bit frightened, obviously, as were you, I thought, but you settled into it eventually, because you were frightened at first.
I didn't ask for a critique of my performance. I don't seem to recall the moment I asked you to sum up my performance. I was asking whether you enjoyed it.
Well, we're mates.
to
I
defend
feel I can comment.
People come on this show and they seem to think I'm interested in what they have to say, and they're labouring under a massive misconception.
Yeah, all right. No, I thought it was great.
What
It
time
was
do we
good.
have? Should we play a track
We
now?
should play it and end. Yeah, you want to end on the track?
We're
from
going to
Heathen?
end the show now. I hope you enjoyed the programme. Next week on the show we have Mick Rock. I think we have some other people as well. I'm not quite sure who's on, but it's a good lineup, I'm sure. I hope you enjoyed the programme today. I certainly did. It was basically, I think, when we started doing this Radio 2, this was basically why we started doing the show.
Yeah.
Hoping one day we get David Bowie. So we won't be back.
No, that's
No,
it.
no.
There's no need
Thanks for
now, is there?
No.
Yeah, so next
Lawrence
week...
Llewellyn Bound's going to be interviewing Mick Rock.
Wouldn't that be great?
Next
Why
week
hasn't
is-
Lawrence got his own radio show?
He should have his own radio show. He'd
Next
be
week
great.
is-
You know why? Because he dresses for TV all the time.
Yeah.
Timmy Mallet making a return next week.
No. Who is on next week?
I can't remember.
Oh, of course, why would you know? You only claim to produce the show. Who we got?
Who have we got next week?
See, David Bowie comes on, you don't care. You don't even know who's on next week.
Well, why would we?
David Bowie's blown out all other guests.
It's Mick Rock the week after next.
Ah, well, it doesn't matter. Next week we got 3
It's going to have to be me and
Yeah.
Gervais again, isn't it?
No. Once bitten, twice shy. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you can come and see us in Bowie tonight, if you've got tickets, it'd be great to see you there. If not, well, tough. 88 to 91. Oh, this is it from Heathen.